All right, all right. Sister Shelley, you were so beautiful, and I know your words were wonderful, but your mic was on mute. Would you like to do it again?
Oh, sure, sure.
Okay, go ahead, unmute. Okay. All right. Well, let's go ahead and you get ready to do it at the end of the show because she did a wonderful job, I could tell. But listen, welcome to Tea Talk. I'm so glad to have you. This is Lady O. And here on Tea Talk, we are talking about real and relevant topics that you will want to know about. It will give you something to go and talk about that is relevant and that people really, really need. And today, we are going to talk about a subject that is sometimes like a dirty word. It's called commitment. But to me and to our guest today, it is a wonderful word because they do it with joy. Now, last week we had some single men on who had not committed yet, but they talked to us about what it would take for them to commit, and they were ready to commit. They just needed to have that right woman, and they gave us some tips on what it would take for you to have a man to commit to you. Well, today we're going to get even deeper with that because we're going to talk about some men who didn't just say they were committed, they actually are committed. They've been married for many years, and I know them, and I know their wives, and the wonderful job that they're doing as a committed partner for not just a few years, but for many years. So we're going to talk to them and hear from them about what this word commitment means to them, and tell us a little bit about how they did it. How. So if you've got someone that's married, especially you young married people, y'all need to be on here to learn how to. It's one thing to get married, but to stay married and be committed and have a happy marriage, that's a different thing. And the guys that we're going to have on today, because we're highlighting our Black men this month and saying that we got some wonderful Black men, and I'm going to give to you some that are married, right? And you're going to ask questions if you have questions to ask for them, and you're just going to be amazed. So you want to call somebody, get on that cell phone, and start texting away. Girl, you need to be here. You know you just got married. You know you've been married for 2 years. You need to hear this so you can stay married. So share this on your Facebook page. Share it with other friends and people that you know need to have this. So we want to just say hello to a few people. Andrea, I see you there. Welcome. And I also saw Sister Dugas and Sister Deborah, and there are several other ladies that are on here that are ready to hear, to support, and to pass the word on about commitment. It is a wonderful, wonderful life. So our first guest, I believe we have today, is going to be, who's our first guest? Is a Reverend Chris? All right. Let's see if we'll go ahead and put that picture up. Unmute yourself and okay, wow. The first guest we have today is Darren Hunter, and I want to welcome you to Tea Talk.
Well, hello, Lady O. How are you?
I'm good. It's so good to have you today. So I just want to commend you for saying yes and be committed. Now tell us about your commitment. How many years have you been married?
Lady O, I've been married 20 and a half years.
Ooh, I applaud you. I applaud
You.
you. So was it
Thank you.
hard, making that commitment and asking that lady, you felt like you were getting ready to get into this married life? Was it hard?
Well, getting into the marriage or the commitment was not hard, but the moment I said I do, it became hard.
Yes. Because everybody wanted you, or what do you, why did it become hard? Because then you started kind of like, what am I doing? What did I do?
Well, candidly, I had a big misconception of what a woman or what my wife needed. In my case, Alicia and I dated when she was graduated out of high school, going to college.
Mhm.
And I made some poor decisions that were very hurtful. And so in my mind, I thought that if I was no longer what men would call being in the streets and having to hide my cell phone, I just figured I had this marriage thing all wrapped up and sealed. Boy, was I wrong.
Wow. So did you think that, I don't know, where are you from, first of all?
I'm from New Orleans.
Okay. Okay. So I was just about to say that because, and it's just my experience with Southern men because I'm a Southern girl, but I know where I came from in East Texas. You know, women were just supposed to be very submissive, and whatever happens, they were just to hang in there and take it. And I saw a lot of women in my family just take a whole bunch of you know what. And I said when I grew up and got married, I wasn't taking that. You know, I'm not having Miss Susie around the corner. I know her. She got kids. I got kids. We all together. It wasn't gonna be like that. But in East Texas and some of the southern places, it was like that. That men saw women differently in marriage, and so when they got married, they came into that with that idea of what they saw Uncle Junebug do. So, did you have a good role model, or what did you think marriage was going to be?
Well, I think the mistake that I made, I figured if I stopped running the streets, which I did,
Uh-huh.
that was all it took.
Right.
The role model that I had, candidly, was my grandfather.
Okay.
I saw aspects of his integrity, family man. I was very successful in incorporating a facet of that,
Mm-hmm.
but the emotional aspect of what my wife needed, I would say I failed miserably. I mean, big time.
Right, right. And it's because you hadn't seen it modeled, probably. Is that correct? Or did you know how to do this? Or did you have premarital counseling? Someone to tell you how to meet your wife's emotional needs?
No, it was learn through pain.
Learn through pain.
Yeah.
And honestly, if we'll all tell the truth about it, when you've been married a long time, you learn a lot of things in pain. But if the commitment is there, then you and I, said this too with another group that you have to allow each other to grow up. We expect that person to be the perfect thing to meet all of our needs, and the truth is, when you marry a person, you don't really even know that person, and then when you get to know them, then you try to figure, oh, so they need this, they need that. And so you're trying to figure this thing out and grow up and mature at the same time. Well, listen, I'm going to go to the next person and come back. So I'm going to ask you some questions. Let me get to know them for a few minutes and I'll come back with you. But thank you so much for sharing. Okay, our second guest today is on the panel. Okay. All right, Mr. Fisher. Welcome to Tea Talk. All right, how many years you been married?
I've been married for 11 years now.
All right. Congratulations. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So how was that commitment for you?
So starting out, the commitment wasn't hard at the very, very beginning of things. I think for us, it wasn't as big of an adjustment going from dating to married. The big adjustment was going married to with kids. And so when you start adding that dynamic into things, it started to get a little hectic and crazy, if you will. And that part became the biggest challenge when you're adding some new elements to the relationship.
How many kids you got?
We have 3 kids.
And how much into the marriage were you? How far were you when you had your first child?
So we were 2.5 years into the marriage.
2.5 years, yeah.
So we got a chance to be us for a little bit, and then my daughter came along, and so that was a whole different dynamic, right? So you're getting to meet a whole different person, and pressure is on, and you have one thing as far as what expectations are while you're dating and newly married, but the expectations change as far as what your wife needs at that time, because I didn't know what was needed from me, and then I think it was also on the same side for her as well. She didn't know what I needed at the same time, so it was a two-way street going into it with kids.
Wow. And you just said the same thing that the first guest said, that I really didn't know how to meet the needs of my wife. And it's the same thing, honestly, with the husband. The husband don't know how to meet the wife's needs, and the wife doesn't know how to meet the husband's needs. Why? Because they're just getting really to know each other. Once you move in and you say I do, you make that commitment, then you really get to know the person that you're going to be committing to. So I think that that's good that you guys are saying that, because that says to people that are watching, get some time, give them some time to get to know them. And then your job then begins to be, how do I meet the needs of this person? If we're meeting each other's needs, it's going to work. The commitment is going to be a lot easier to keep along the way. So, well, wonderful. So we're so glad that you're on. Don't go away. We're going to come back to you. Let me get to know the other guests, and we'll come right back. All right. Who's next? Okay. Let's see. I can't switch my little screen here. Is it hiding the face for me? Oh. Okay. All right. Mr. Jeffrey Gant.
Hey,
how are you?
I'm doing just fine. How you doing?
Welcome to Tea Talk.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Now, how many years have you been married?
We have been married 30 years.
30 years. Woo!
30 years.
You committed young.
Well, we were in the early 20s, or at least I was. Not early 20s, mid 20s. So
mid 20s. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Yes.
So would you say? Let me ask you this, because you're such a mature man now. Were you really mature? Were you just a loving person, but you were a really immature person at 25 or whatever it was?
I was probably more mature at my age than many. Kind of had I was more mature. I was never one who was really out there in the streets, like the clubs and things of that sort. It was never me.
Right.
And so yeah, and Deborah and I, and I'm more, I guess, more mature, and I'm more, I guess what the word I'm looking for, just matter of fact in some things. Deborah would say I'm not as I don't do a lot of spur of the moment type of things.
Okay. Okay.
But yeah,
you're not compulsive. You're not going to jump from here to there just out of your.
I can be, but typically it's not my nature to be very compulsive.
Yeah. When it comes to making commitments, so would you say committing was easy for you or hard?
It was really easy for me. I mean, we took our time, and the commitment wasn't so much. I think what we did early on, it was a commitment that knowing, I mean, that it's an evolution, that we're always growing, and that we're committed. Because as the gentleman said a little earlier, it was different than we were married but no other kids. It was different than when one child came on. It was different when two children came on. You know, but and maintaining that commitment through that was what we said. So I'm committed to get to know you, even as our lifestyles and these things change. We're still committed to each other.
Wow. Well, listen, is that the last guest? Because we got some questions on here. I want to get into some of these questions here. Andrea has one. Do we have another guest? Is that it? Oh, we do have another guest. Yes. Okay, I want to go ahead and get y'all introduced, because I see some questions, and all of my back screen, my team, please get these questions down, because they kind of move along the way and I'll forget about them. But thank you, Dick, again, we're going to learn some more too, some of your advice. So Mr. Mike Walker, welcome.
Hello there. How are you?
Doing good. Now, for you guys that don't know, this is Tracy's husband, the one that's always welcome to Tea Talk. This is Tracy's husband. So how many years have y'all been married?
23 years. It'll be 24 at the end of this month.
Wow, congratulations. So was it hard to make that commitment?
It really wasn't for me. I wanted to be married. I really did.
How old were you?
Ma'am?
How old were you?
I was 24 years old.
And you wanted to be married. And you know what? The guests that were there last week, it's like the men want to be married. They're just looking for the right woman that they can just not say no to. Would that be the case?
Well, I had in my mind what I was looking for. And, you know, the Bible tells us that, you know, if you ask, you shall receive. So I prayed for someone that wound up being Tracy. I mean, she was everything that I was looking for.
Very good. Okay, well, listen, we have a lot of people on that have questions of you guys, so it's so good to get to know all of you. Some of you I already know a little bit about, but we want to get to the questions. So if we go ahead and pull the panel up, and I just ask that when your question is asked of you, if you will unmute your mic only when you're speaking, And when you're not speaking, to go ahead and mute it. All right. So let's see. The first one says, okay, they're moving around. There's so many questions. Okay. Let's see. Okay, the panel is there. Everybody's there. Okay, good. So why don't we let my host say the question, because I can't read them. The questions are coming by too fast. So who has a question there that they can pull off the chat? Okay, Shelly, go ahead. What's the question?
Okay, when you have a disagreement with you and your wife, how do you handle those? What do you do you compromise? Do you just say, well, I'm the man, I'm making a decision? How do you handle those disagreements?
Okay, very good. So we're going to go down the line. Christopher, you're first there. Just give how do you handle that to stay committed? You don't just walk out the door and say, I'm gone.
No, so we actually had to learn how to what you call is fight fair. Okay. And so a lot of times when you get in disagreements, sometimes you're just wishing to push your agenda so that you can be heard. But we've learned to get to a point to where we listen to each other first and not seek to be heard first. So you seek to understand the other person's perspective. And respect the other person's perspective. Now that is, it's easier to say right now, but when it comes to the heat of the moment, you're angry, sometimes things, get said and, all that kind of stuff that you don't want to do. But at the end of the day, the goal is to get to a point to where you are on the same level of understanding on how you go and move forward. I think we're in a day now to where, you can't just be pushing along and saying, well, I'm the man and this is just what it is. Mm-hmm. I think those days are kind of gone. They're over. Point, right. They're gone. Yeah. we're not coming back. Yeah. We're not going down that route. And so it's just a matter of really understanding what is needed for the family. I think the wife and the husband bring two different perspectives and we got to understand both each other's perspective.
Okay. Very good. Very good. Okay. Deacon Gant, you're next.
I'm the man and this is the way it is. I wouldn't be married 30 years if that was the
case. Because you got an intelligent, strong woman and
it wouldn't have happened. We learned to fight. I don't know that we arguing. It's not really fighting. We disagreed. We've always said is that don't go to bed angry. If we're mad or angry. So we made a point early in our marriage, not going to bed mad or angry. And we may disagree on some things and how we do some things. And it's different from what restaurant do you want to go to versus maybe some of your more just impactful things. But it's really talking it through. And eventually we've always come to a decision that we can both move forward with. But my way is no, just my way. I'm the man. No, that does not work.
That's not going to work. So if you got that on your agenda, man, strike it out. And I think that's why part of the commitment that you make, when you're committed to making it work, coming together to compromise. That's another word with when you're talking about commitment is compromise. And to fight fair. I like that. Someone said to fight fair and not to say it's my way or the highway. And I want to just add this in too to the women. Women, the men have gotten better at doing this than the women. Now the women in a lot of marriages that I know is her way or no way. And that is not right. And that's kind of hard to have a man to continue to commit to you happily if you're always saying it's my way or no way. You have to learn, like I tell my kids, you have to learn pick your battles. And so sometimes when pastoral, we call it having an intense discussion. There are certain ground rules and things we won't say, like, the boundaries and so forth, learn how to fight fair. But I always say, okay, I'm not picking that one. I'm not dealing with stupid stuff. It's what I call, I'm not dealing with stupid stuff. This is not one I'm going to pick. So whatever he says is fine. And I learn to say, you're right, honey. That's fine. Okay. And really mean it. I mean, because I'm not arguing about that. And then sometimes, the wrong day, or maybe he's kind of gotten 10 up there. This is the 10th one. And I said, okay, I'm picking this one. Now, let's talk about this, and I, you know, sit down and just we talk about it. But you can't nitpick about every little thing. You can't argue about every little thing. You can't get a person straight on every little thing. And women are, a lot of women do that. And y'all can answer me if y'all think that's right or wrong, that you've seen, not necessarily your wife, but your friends talk about their wives doing that, or even seeing other women do that. So let's see. Next. Okay, tell me what, just, you know, you can comment to that question or to what I just said. And that's going to be, who's that next? Go ahead. Unmute yourself and go ahead. I think they put this picture in the way, so I can't see. Hold on a minute. Yeah, that's Darren. Okay, you're next. What do you say?
How do we handle disagreements?
Disagreements, or you can talk to the fact of, you know, communicating about those difficult conversations like what I just had. You know, what do you do? How do you stay committed when there's controversial things going on in your marriage that you need to discuss or you're not happy with?
Okay. I'll respond to both, Lady O. And I think where I can be effective is to share my folly and my mistakes, because I think that people learn differently. Yes. And one of the things I learned, and I didn't learn this in the beginning of my marriage, Satan doesn't have a problem if you date. Mm-hmm. He doesn't have a problem if you shack. But the moment you say I do, demons are unleashed on marriages. Mm-hmm. And many men, in my opinion, we come into the marriage, we've never really been taught how to be men. Our husbands, we've been taught how to be providers. Right. So one of the mistakes that I learned, I never learned gentleness. My personality was very abrasive. Mm-hmm. And Paul talks about in Colossians about how we're not to be harsh with our wives. Mm-hmm. And there have been times where I was very harsh. I mean, I don't use profanity. When I wasn't saved, I had a very nasty mouth, but the Lord has cleansed. But men can still be just as harsh in our tone, and we don't have to say bleep you. Right. But the world would say F you. But it was how your tone and how harsh.
Ooh, you better come on. You better preach.
And so
I'm throwing my handkerchief.
I never learned how to disengage. And the Lord had to teach me that although everything may not be my fault in my marriage, I was responsible to the thermostat of my house. Mm-hmm. Wow. And I think we as men, if we're really truthful, most men are not in their rightful places in their home spiritually. And so we give Satan legal authority to come in and bring havoc in the marriage, just as I did. Just as something simple as not being gentle, loving, or knowing when to be quiet. So I didn't handle disagreements appropriately. And I would tell Alicia, well, I'm not yelling. I'm not doing this, but I wasn't gentle. Yes. And so I had to learn how to disagree. A wise man has to know when to take a step back. And when my aunt Flair instilled in me a couple of years ago, sometimes everything don't need to be said. It took me years to that point. And so now I'm finally maturing, and the Lord I see in a gradual place He's bringing healing. But I would say how to handle disagreements, if we as men and for our sisters, if we can learn to just be mindful of our tone, learning how to disengage and reconvene when we can act like we truly have the DNA of Christ to handle difficult situations.
Whoa, I'm gonna say, man, let me just have a little toast, a little drink to that, because I was a mouthful. Hold on 1 second.
Oh my Lord. I think it's important that we be very sincere, because marriage is under attack. This is the time where the Lord is using you in this platform to bring healing. So I'm just hoping that we can all be candid and not try to be so holy to where we're not being beneficial to the body. Wow.
And that's exactly what I want you guys to do. I want you not just to tell me the good. I want you to tell me what you learned, the mistakes you learned. And what you just said, reason I had to take a drink, because you just were so good and honest and transparent in saying that, you know, there was a time when I was not being gentle. I didn't know there was I need to be quiet. You tell the man he needs to be quiet and he's a man of his household. I wasn't in my rightful place in the home. Some men are not there. And then you said, now I was maturing to understand that it was my tone, my disposition. I needed to learn how to disengage and just shut up. That's what I just shut up. We were counseling a couple and I just, you know, sometimes I get really real. And I just told them, y'all just need to shut up and y'all need to go, and y'all talking about fasting from food. Y'all need to fast with your mouth, because what both of y'all are doing is killing your homes, and nobody's winning. Everybody's trying to be heard and everybody's trying to, you know, explain their case. I don't want to hear your case. I don't want to hear yours. Y'all both need to shut up. That's what I had to tell them. They are thanking me for it now. It's doing much better, but they did go on a fast with their mouth, disengage. And then the other thing you said, I had to write that down. Until we have the DNA of Christ. Y'all note that. Until you have the DNA of Christ, then men, you don't know how to take your rightful place in the home, and by not being oppressive and so dogmatic, and, you know, and not, like you said, I wasn't raising my voice, but it was my disposition. It was the way, the things I was saying. I wasn't saying F you, but in other words, I was. Woo, that's powerful. We're going to have you do a workshop on that, because we have our group that we do on marriage is called Two Becoming One. And so that's what you're doing over the years, is becoming one. Even when you've been married 50 years, you're still becoming, because you're changing, your body's changing, this world is changing. And so many needs are different at different stages and seasons of your life. So you cannot be that same person to your wife you were at age 20. It's not going to work if you've been married 40 years, because everything is changing. So that was a mouthful there. Okay, Mr. Michael, tell us what you say about this when you have to make this these comments about things that are pressing in your marriage. How do you communicate? How do you stay committed in the midst of controversy?
So for me, I realize most people that know me know I'm pretty gregarious. I like to talk. But the funny thing about it is, whenever I would get into a situation where it would be you would say an intense conversation or a disagreement or argument or whatever phrase you want to use, I would have a tendency to shut down.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't say anything.
I want to talk. Okay, come on.
That actually was counterintuitive to what needed to occur, because if you shut down, Tracy would always see it as, okay, well, you're ignoring me or you're cutting me off. But I grew up in a household with my parents who were both Christian, but like they were not shy at all about going in, having those deep conversations, as we would say. And I hated it. It always made me fearful. I was always worried that, you know, that it was something crazy was going to happen. And it really didn't. My dad never hit my mom. I never saw him hit my mom, but they just engaged. And they when they finished, they were good. But it always made me nervous. So I didn't want to do it at all. But what I had to learn how to do was actively listen. And people talk about active listening, but sometimes in marriage, we don't do it. You're still watching TV, or you're looking out. You're, you know, something else. But I would have to stop, turn around. I've really been practicing this, even if it's not an argument. If Tracy's talking about whatever she's talking about, really look at her, engage, pay attention to what she's saying. And what I had to learn in the argument, quote unquote, argument world is you really have to hear her heart. Right. Sometimes we're focused on the words. But the few books that I've been able to read about all that, along with the Bible, of course, is that you have to hear her heart. Right. Like, you may be saying whatever she's saying, but what's beneath that? What's the real deal? What is it that she's really trying to get at? Tracy's the kind of person that, you know, she's real driven. She wants an answer right now. And I used to always say, I don't want to give you an answer if I haven't thought about it. But now I've learned to say, okay, let me think through this. Let me hear what you're saying. Let me think through this. And then I still give her, you know, the attention and make sure she knows I'm listening. But give me a minute to process it, or give me a minute to think through it. And that way you both kind of win.
Right. You know, and now I'm sitting here laughing because that's so true. Most men would rather just shut down than to try to understand and hear what the woman is saying, because they go like, I don't want to hear it. You know, she just yeah. And back in the day, way back in the day, a lot of men were told, you need to whoop her, you know, just beat her up a couple times, she won't say it anymore. And they actually did. That's why they control their women, because they didn't know how to use any kind of intellect. They didn't have the skills, so they used the physical stuff or the silent treatment. Or they would go off and say, well, I'm gone. And then they go out, drink, or go to their other woman's house, or whatever they would do to self-medicate, to keep from talking about what is an obvious thing that's going on in the marriage. And then it ends up like you sweep it under the rug. And as they say, then it becomes a little lump, and pretty soon it becomes a big mountain of stuff under there. And then one day you've been married 35 years and she says, I'm gone. You're like, what happened? It wasn't the thing that happened today. It was the stuff that's been sweeping up under the rug that hadn't been communicated or talked about for all these years. And now you want to understand and want to go to counseling, and that person's made up their mind, I don't want to do this. I'm through with the marriage. Whether it's the man or the woman, it's wrong. So I think that was very good that you said. Another thing you said too was, we need to educate ourselves. We need to get some books and read. And you know, when you wanting to know about your wife, or you want to examine yourself to see how I can change the behavior that I've learned over these years, you need to go to some workshops. You need to go to some classes, get some training, get some counseling. And those things cost money. Books cost money. People don't want to buy books. They need to buy books. They don't want to read. They need to read. Workshops cost money. I don't want to go to a workshop. But you need to have that counseling and workshop and stuff in there so you can learn better, so that you can do better. But you got to want to do better first. And that's a part of that commitment. When you're committed to a person, you want to please them. And you can't keep saying you love your wife, you love your husband, and you're doing the same old thing and you're not trying to get better. You're just sitting at home with that remote clicking, and you know, she's trying to talk and you're like, you're not really hearing her. You're not engaged. You got the remote in one hand and Facebook in another. So there's so many distractions. So, okay, let's go to another question. Those are very good answers, guys. Okay, Claire, you got a question?
Yes. Okay. In reference to romance, we have a question that says, have you ever written any romantic letters to your wife, or what's your romance that you bring into your marriage?
Ooh, how do you keep the romance going? How to keep it hot for all of these years? I had a person ask me one time, he said, you've been married to the same man for 40 something years, the same man? Like it was what do you do with the man with 40 something years? And they said, how do you keep the romance going? So, okay, guys, come on, tell us what you do. Okay. Now they got y'all out of order, so I'm not gonna go back to okay.
Oh yeah, they would put me first. This is an area, even at 30, this is an area where I need to do a lot better. As far as romance, after you've been there, I mean, Deborah, and she's asked, just little things. My wife, Deborah, is not one who demands a lot, but just doing little things is very pleasing to her, and so that's an area. Bringing home flowers, thank you cards, planning something. They're just going out to eat with just me and her, things of that sort. Not taking her for granted, which is really what it all boils down to when you think about romance. It's just not doing those things that take her for granted. You say, hey, I'm providing for you. We've got a nice home. Our children are healthy. Well, you should be good. But no, it's doing the little things and just making sure that she is important. And this is definitely an area that I need to work on.
Okay, very good. Okay, Mr. Christopher, romance. Come on, talk to us. I'm thinking you're the youngest one up here. Talk us about real romance here. I don't know.
I'm the youngest one and probably the one with the youngest kids right now. So
okay. So are you saying they're interfering in the romance?
Oh man.
They are the biggest blockers, bro.
Oh man, yes. So but one thing that I try to make sure that I do on a daily basis, I do it very, very often, and I do it at random times. I always give my wife like different just random compliments.
Okay.
And so those things go a long way. I keep checking with her. Hey, am I saying it too much? She's like, no, I want you to keep telling me that I'm beautiful. So
you checking in, okay, to see if she likes that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I check in just to make sure, like, okay, does she like it? You know, all that kind of stuff. And I tell her about her smile, because that's one of the things that attracted me to her. But I check in with her a lot as far as, letting her know how I feel. And so that's kind of one of my love languages, but it's always an area of continuous improvement, because things can, after so many years, things can sometimes get stale, and you get into a routine of things. And so you just have to kind of remind yourself, one of the hardest things right now is doing the date night, type of scenario. It's especially how things happened over this past year. Those scenarios become a little bit tough. But finding a way to just do little things. One thing that I would do, because I fixed the lunches for our kids and for her in the morning time. So there's times when I'll slip in a little note, to her, that just, let her know a few words that will make her smile. So, when she opens up her lunch, she'll find something from me. But it's just, being random, with some of the things. But it sometimes you're doing well, and then sometimes, you kind of fall off and need to kind of get back into the groove of doing what got her to trust in you. So.
Exactly. And I like those things that you said too. And because most of them you said are free. I mean, they don't cost anything to do compliments. It doesn't cost anything to slip a note into here and different places where she's not going to expect it. She's going to open up and read some kind of compliment of her. And, we as women need compliments, because we're competing with all of this world and these perfect bodies and so forth. And sometimes you need them to kind of just say something, you look good, or I like the way, whatever. And I think that's something we can do more of, is give compliments and do certain things. I think the date nights are really good too, you were saying, but I think those random acts of kindness and just not taking her for granted. You don't have to have flowers if you don't have money for flowers, but it takes nothing to give a compliment. Yeah. And then checking out like that.
Something I just did now is my wife is out of town, and so I made sure when she get back in a few hours, the whole house is clean, so she don't have to worry about it. So it's random stuff like that, right?
And that's so true. Let me tell y'all a little joke too. My son's gonna kill me for this, but anyway. Joe and Sherelle are staying with us now till their house gets ready. And the boys, so they've been out of town last week. So they were coming back yesterday. And so this upstairs was nobody but him. I heard his bumping and going on. I was like, is he falling? Is he hurting himself? Then I heard the vacuum cleaner going. And I called and said, you okay up there? He said, yeah, I'm trying to get this room clean before Sherelle get back. I was like, because that was something he wanted to make sure that she didn't come back to a dirty room. Now, he may have lived in a dirty room, but he knew his wife was coming back, and that's something kind that he did when she walked in, and it's easy to do. So he was doing that. He was doing the dishes to me. Mom, you're not going to help me? And I said, no, that's your boo. That ain't my boo. That's your boo. Handle your business, okay? I'm praying for you. But, okay, Mr. Walker. Oh, no, I'm sorry, Darren. What do you do?
Okay. Well, that's an area where candidly I didn't do well, and it was part I would say it was a combination of bringing worldly behavior into my marriage and my thought process. And what I mean by that, I equated romance to how you allegedly performed in the bedroom. Which is
keep it real.
Is totally is pathetic to think that way.
Yes.
And I had to learn over time, as I mentioned earlier, through pain. Now when everything God records in His Word is strategic. It's purpose. When He tells us that we to honor the Lord honor our wives as unto the weaker vessel. It's hard to connect to her romantically when you don't connect to her emotionally.
Come on. You got the women. Come on, women, let's get some hand claps out there. If you're not connected with my mind, it's not gonna go well in the bedroom. Okay, come on.
Yeah, and even and really loving your wife outside the bedroom.
Yes.
See, I did the dishes. My mom raised me. I clean the toilets, I cut the grass. But when you're smiling and laughing 1 minute, and then you're harsh to your wife the next minute, and then you want her to let you jump her bones.
Come on. Woo,
and then you go to church. You go to church and shout, and then you're fussing in the car. What good is flowers if you've killed her emotionally?
Oh my God.
So the nugget that I want to share is that learn your wife.
Mm-hmm.
We must know our wife.
Mm-hmm.
Because the shepherd that God sends us under, they help us. Our pastors help us with when we go to counseling and make it a little bit more detailed. But every wife is different. And until we learn our wives, we hitting and missing. We doing things that are counterproductive. So I had to learn the hard way that what my wife needed, and I would feel candid that most women would say this, we have to learn to connect to our wives emotionally. Because you could bring them flowers and you can cut them off in a conversation and be rude.
Ooh.
Especially if you're an alpha male. And it takes a big dose of humility to die to Darren, to be Christ-like, to be what Alicia needs.
Wow.
And Alicia's my wife. And Lady O, I asked the Lord, I was putting out the trash some months back, and I asked the Lord, I said, Lord, why are you waiting so long for me to learn these things? Some things I just didn't know.
Right. So
I would say to be a romantic, and I think we can apply this to every woman, connect to her emotions.
Wow. Whew. You know, I think I done ran out of water up here. I'm gonna have to get me some more. Oh my goodness. But let me just say this, because you were on it. You were on it. Because, and this is one of the problems that our men have really, really bad. I feel bad for them. Pornography, it's an epidemic. Everywhere you look, there are things that are stimulating men that they want to come home and they want their wives to do that. And that's not romantic, okay? That you're finding out what they do into this particular magazine or this particular show, or what the men talk about in the locker room, what they do to women and what women do to them. That's not romance, okay? That's sex, okay? And a lot of it is really almost to the point of humiliating your wife to want her to do some of the things that you have seen on porno things and you've seen in magazines. So when we're talking about this romance, it's not about performance. You've got to really love your wife with that DNA of Christ. You've got to get into her emotions. And I love how you said you can bring her a big thing of flowers and come down and cut her off emotionally. And then you want to get into bed and want her to perform like you've seen on these shows or whatever. I think that we really need to have a really, really come to Jesus with our men with this pornography, because it's so easy to type it and get there and get in these chat rooms and things. And then that stuff is into your mind, into your emotions and hearts. And then you come back and you want to love your wife the way you just saw, and you want her to love you as you see love the way you saw on a porno. And that is not love. That is abuse. And it is really it's very bad. But I thank you for that. That was for keeping that real, because a lot of men want to know why their wives are not responding. Why you cut her down and say, oops, something went wrong, trying something. Are we still on? Okay, I had a red light said something went wrong, but I guess we're still on good. Yeah, that's lust. Bobby Williams said that's lust. That's not love, okay? And to have your wife to do that, it is really using her, and sometimes to the point that you're raping her. When you're not making love to her, you're using and abusing her to fulfill a fantasy and a lust that you have, that you need to ask the Lord to deliver you from it. I mean, sincerely, it's a spirit. So I'm speaking to a lot of women who are doing these things, as well as to the men who are asking that, to do some things. It's really sad. Okay, let's see who didn't get to answer. Brother Mike, you got to talk about that romance and love. It's on you.
So one of the things that he mentioned was the love languages. When I read that some years ago, I think it brought some insight to my situation, because Tracy's love language is service. That's her strong love language. She wants you to, you know, put something together, do something, you know, the day-to-day, the checklist is huge for her. Yeah. So as weird as it sounds, sometimes the romance, like I was hitting her with the flowers and all that, and that was nice, but she really wanted some of those other things. And I'm not a tool belt guy. You know, people that walk around and fix everything, you know, it takes me 4 times longer than anybody else. I'm like, let's just pay the dude. It's just
like your pastor. You like your pastor.
I mean, Tracy can look at something and put it together.
Somebody here pay him to do it.
Yeah, but I'm the reverse. So just little things. I think they mentioned that, the romance piece, the little things, finding out what she likes, but also surprising her sometimes. Sometimes I may surprise her, just show up at her job and bring her lunch, you know, something like that. You know, those little things I think are important. One of the other gentlemen mentioned his children. Mine is a little bit older now. He's 14 now, but children can make a difference in how you do that, but you still have to prioritize it.
Yeah.
You know, and we have our own things. Everything is about him, and it's not.
It's about him. I know.
Tracy's birthday, he's like, what am I getting? Just like nothing, dude. It's not your birthday.
Those knocks on the door. Mama be like, go away. Go away. What do you want? Yeah. I need some cereal. Go find it. But anyway, we had a question from Deborah Reeve. She said about alpha men. Would you all consider yourself, it said, would you consider yourselves alpha men in your identity, your intelligence, and your relationships? And what is an alpha man? Because I know we got some alpha female too. What is an alpha man? I'm not talking about the fraternity. Who wants to tackle that question? What's an alpha man? Okay, Christopher, they got you up.
All right, good. I know they didn't want to do that to my cousin Darren over there, because he okay. That's definitely not his fraternity. So
okay. We're not gonna get on that.
But no, as far as even outside of just the question of identity, I think one of the undertones that's been kind of stated a few times here is just really knowing who you are as a person more than anything. I think that one of the issues that kind of goes into relationships, and I could talk about, you know, what we faced is not truly knowing who you are as a person first. And you're trying to find your identity in the marriage and not finding your own identity outside of the marriage. And that became more of an issue to where the title of being married is becoming who you are, being a husband or whatnot is being who you are. And so that's something that we had to overcome, is just knowing who you are as a person. As related to like alpha, or you know, I know that I'm a very I'm a go-getter. Like I go after things. As men, we're kind of wired to go out and hunt, but I know that for me, I'm you know, I like to, when I see a goal or something like that, I'm gonna go after it. But as far as, you know, how I handle that with inside of my relationship, it's more in the reverse, you know, if you will. I'm not as you know, heavy with it in our relationship. I like to kind of make sure that I'm hearing more of my wife's side of things versus just pushing what I want to do with inside the relationship, because I know that doesn't, you know, it doesn't work at all. But at the end of the day, it's really just knowing who you are as a person and what works best.
Okay.
Same for my wife.
Right. I Googled alpha on here, alpha male, and it says the dominant male in a particular thing. So I guess when you get into a group of males, you know, animals, the one who beats up everybody, who gets to mate with all the females will be the alpha male. So I guess in a marriage relationship, the man or the woman could be the alpha male. And I've also heard of them say there are some alpha women too. So I think from what it's saying is that the person who wants to take the lead, who's kind of like the domineering one in the marriage, So is there just, I guess, for kind of a short answer, I think what they want to know, are you the dominant person in the marriage, or would your wife be the dominant person in the marriage? Okay, think again.
You know, the buck stops with me when it's all
Okay,
said and done in my house. It's
right,
kind of the approach that I said the buck stops with me. I didn't say that all the decisions
right.
start with me.
Uh-huh.
I think Pastor August said this past weekend on the men's conference, every bill that comes to the house has his name on it. She may
Mm-hmm.
have initiated the bill, but I'm responsible for it, regardless of what's going
Right.
on. I'm responsible
Mhm.
for it. And so, if
Responsible.
that's the definition of an alpha male, anything that goes on into my house, I am responsible for it as the man of the house.
Okay.
We may have there are decisions that we're going to make together.
Mm-hmm.
There are decisions that I may make, that she
Right.
may defer to me,
Mm-hmm.
because in essentially, Deborah didn't have it when you use that word submit. She didn't have a problem submitting, because
Mm-hmm.
I'm taking care of business and I don't disrespect her and I take her into account. But ultimately, if alpha means that the buck stops with you, which is
Mm-hmm.
where it should,
Mm-hmm.
that's where, in my mind, that's how I see it. Is that
Okay.
I don't get throw out an emotion and get all
Right.
I can't allow myself as a man of the house to get so emotional that I can't make a decision, or that I
Right.
won't make a decision, or if something happens that I can make a decision. And so in
Yeah.
that respect, yeah, I'm the more dominant figure there in the house.
Right, right. And that's what he does in our house too. I mean, Buck starts with Pastor. He's because they always say, you can't have two heads. That's a monster. So we have one head. But also, as women say, you do have to have a neck with the head. That's all a part of it. So I am very influential in some of the decisions that we make. And he wants to consider me, and anybody should want to consider their spouse, because it's our life, our marriage, our children, our home. So the alpha male sometimes would be the person that they would say that I don't care what you say, I'm going to do what I want to do. So I don't know about that alpha male kind of thing, but I would just say that, like in our house, I have decisions, I have input. I want to talk. I'm a human being. I'm an educated human being, and I am very good at a lot of things. And so I think that for a man, I think the Bible says a foolish man despises wise counsel. So if you can't counsel with the person that you sleep with, that you have your children by, that you're in a marriage relationship committed to, then that's a very sad situation, that you want them to sit there and act like they are a cup. They have no decisions, no thoughts, and you just make all decisions, not considering and thinking about this cup. That's not a person. That's not somebody you love. So that alpha male thing, I don't know. I think Pam had another question, unless one of you all had something you just really needed to add to that alpha thing. Okay, let's move on from that, because I don't think any of y'all, the way you all sound, you're not like a domineering, it's my way, no way, and just, acting like your wife is a cup. So we're going to move on with that one. All right, Pam, what was your question? Did somebody write it down? Because I didn't see it. Go ahead. Shelly, unmute yourself. Unmute yourself.
Pam's question was the one about the letter. So we got her, they answered her question.
Okay, very good. All right, very good. Listen, guys, we are about out of time. But I tell you, I believe that we have learned a whole lot about what it means to be a committed man in a marriage, what it takes to make that commitment, your own personality and your background and upbringing, and the relationship with our God, to commit to a relationship and not want to just sleep around or shack up or have kids here and there. We have some really great African-American men, and I wanted to showcase you guys and to honor you as this month, as we are honoring men. All of you guys, we give a thumbs up to all of you, and a thank you as we honor you this month for your commitment and for the giving back, being transparent to say, I wasn't all that when I was in my 20s. I learned. You have encouraged so many men today and so many women with information that I know we're going to have stronger marriage, stronger relationships. We can help our children, our nephews and uncles. So I just thank you all. And I just want to wish you all a happy Father's Day. And thank you for coming on to share on Tea Talk Time. so we could just showcase some good Black men that are committed and that love the Lord. Now, next week, guys, we're going to have Father's Day. You don't want to miss it. I have already looked at what's going to happen next week. So if you have not said thank you to the men in your life or to a man who's doing a great job at being a father, why don't you do that? Give a shout out today, but also for next week. Do not let Father's Day be just another day. They always say Mother's Day get everything, the fathers don't get anything. So let's don't let that be. Let's honor them. Women, let's start to really try to understand our husbands and men in our lives and to encourage them, because it's not easy being the head, being the lead. They're going to make some mistakes, but if you never allow them to lead, they'll never learn how to lead. And they're growing and maturing and becoming the man that God calls them to be. It didn't happen overnight with anybody that was on our show today. So give them a chance and help them to learn to lead the way God is calling them to lead. Well, listen, our time is up. This is Lady O with Tea Talk. I have enjoyed my time together with these wonderful men. I honor them and I say, listen, go out and tell somebody about that. Okay? And I'll see you next week at 3 for Tea with Lady O. Have a great week.